high plain or a mountain. They fast for the entire day to reach that spiritual sense, and then they pray towards Jerusalem on the top of a mountain, yearning for Zion, yearning for the day of return. And as we know, sometime up in the last couple decades, a large portion of that community returned to Israel and now is a part of mainstream Israel society, the Beta Israel. So that's the quick 2-minute elevator pitch. You almost ready?
I'm completely ready.
All right, cool. There we go. So now you don't have to come to the November. Anyways, November 17th, we're going to have a whole lecture on that, and we're going to be serving some Ethiopian food. If you've ever tried their bread, it's amazing. It's a special kind of spongy bread. So that's November 17th. We're celebrating it on SIGD. You can climb up to a mountain afterwards and call towards Jerusalem. Just don't climb on the dunes, please. All right, Rabbi, it's all you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody.
Turn off your phones, please.
I'm going to keep my phone on if that's all right. Okay, guys. Boo. What did, I have a corny joke for you here. Okay. The difference between a Jewish ghost and a Gentile ghost. A Gentile ghost says boo. A Jewish ghost says, boo-hoo, you never call and you never visit. That is so corny. It shouldn't even be allowed. Okay, shalom for those who are watching us online. Thanks for being here. For those that are in person, for those online, by the way, I just want to let you guys know that there's actually real human beings that still get together, talk to each other like face to face. And if you don't believe me, here, guys, say hello. Isn't that remarkable? They don't just sit in their pajamas all day in front of a screen. They have jobs. It's unbelievable. Anyway, welcome. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, JCC. Thank you for this, Marg and crew. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about Judaism and the ghosts, goblins, witches, and all this magical, monstrous stuff. It's good to see many of you, and hopefully we're going to go on an interesting journey together. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyah b'dvaro. Off topic, but on topic. People are asking me if I let my kids go trick-or-treating. Let's take a little vote here. How many of you think my kids go trick-or-treating? How many of you think my kids don't go trick-or-treating? So the truth is my kids don't. They don't get dressed up. And people ask me why. Well, simply because I try to teach my kids not to take candy from strangers. I try not to encourage them to trick people. The imagery, and it's really, the truth is the history of Halloween is connected very much to like ancient idol worship, and even has Christian roots, and it's a celebration of death. And really in Judaism, we celebrate life, and it's just a different focus. So we don't do the trick or treat thing. They don't get dressed up. But you may have heard of this other holiday called Purim. So that's when we get dressed up. And on Purim, we instead of asking people for candy, we give treats to each other. We give charity, and we do mitzvahs. So it's a little different energy, a lot more of a Jewish energy, in my opinion. People ask my kids, do you want to? And they're like, no, we're not. We're fine. So anyway, I know a lot of Jewish people that do have the pumpkins. And I always say God created the pumpkin. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful fruit, vegetable, I guess. And we do keep a big bowl of kosher candy, because when kids in the neighborhood come by, we do want them to have a good time. And we try to teach them how to make a bracha. Even to the not Jewish kids, because why not? I say, here's some candy. Why don't you thank Hashem? Baruch atah Hashem, shehakol niyah b'dvaro. Everything comes from God. Like in this week's Torah portion, Abraham would set up his tent in the middle of the crossroads, And he would wait for people to come and he'd feed them. Here, have some bagel, have some lox, have some cream cheese. Where's the lox, by the way? What? Is this even a Jewish event? Who's in charge of the food? That was me. Sorry. Next time, lox, guaranteed, or your money back. Yeah, so he would feed people, and then people would come and say, how much do I owe you for this great meal? And he would say, don't thank me, thank Hashem. He would teach people about Hashem. So I feel like Halloween falling on this week's Torah portion of Avram teaching people to thank God is a good time for my kids to give candy to the kids in the neighborhood. Nothing wrong. So that's our participation. But that's not the topic of why we came today. So today we're talking about Judaism, ghosts, goblins, witches, and does Judaism believe in this stuff? I'm going to ask everyone here, and those are online, I'd love to see your comments. What do you guys think? Do you believe in spirits and ghosts? Do you feel like you could see them and sense them? If you do, be brave. Tell us. Raise your hand. All right. There's a couple people that feel they could. All right. Who thinks it's a bunch of nonsense? All right. What? A Dybbuk, right? Oh, well, maybe we'll get the Dybbuks too. I have a whole list. I don't even know if we'll get to all of them, but we'll start. Who's not sure? Who's not sure? Raise your hand. And everyone else didn't raise their hand. That's okay. You don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to. Let's look at the comments. Someone said we're told not to speak to psychics here. All right. So let's see what Torah says about these topics. Let's start by doing this. I'm going to start going through the Torah and talk about different verses, and you'll tell me if Judaism addresses these topics, okay? So the Torah tells us in Exodus that when Moshe came and God gave him a sign to take your staff, throw it on the ground, and it will turn into a snake. Sounds a little magical to me. And Pharaoh's sorcerers mock Moses and take their staffs and throw them on the ground, and they turn into serpents. Snake, right? All right. So I'm looking at a story in Exodus, and I see witches or sorcerers in the Torah. So maybe when I'm walking on Atlantic City Boardwalk, and there's that sign for just $49, they could read my future or talk to my great-grandbubby. Maybe there's something there. Judaism talks about this like black magic. All right. Well, hold the thought. I'm not going to come to a conclusion yet. Let's just go down to talk about other things in the Torah where we see such sources. It says in the Torah, you shall not allow a sorcerer to live amongst you. And there should not be found amongst you a soothsayer, a diviner of auspicious times, one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or a charmer. Anyone here, any witches here? Just want to make sure because the Torah says you can't. So if the Torah says that such a person can't live amongst us, it must mean that witches are real. Okay, let's keep going. There's another story that we're going to read next week's Torah portion. It's the story of Abraham. And God tells him to have a circumcision, and he does. And God makes the sun get very hot in the sky because Abraham loved having guests. And God says, no, I want Abraham to relax. And Abraham got depressed because there was no one to serve. Even though he was in pain, his greater pain was not having a purpose. And then God sends 3 angels walking amongst people. He invites them in. He feeds them. They bless him to feel better. Sarah should have a baby. Sarah laughs. Me, a baby at this age. That's why the son is Isaac, which means laughter. And then the angels go off onto the wicked city of Sodom. What a great crowd. You guys actually remember what happened in Hebrew school. That's good. Yeah, so we got angels walking amongst spirits, walking amongst people in the Torah. Seems that Judaism is pretty thick with the paranormal so far. And I'm not talking about the commentaries. I'm talking about Torah itself. All right, let's keep going. On the sixth day of creation. This is in the Medrash. The Medrash says God rested. The Medrash says God was in the middle of creating some creatures because he rested on the sixth day. He stopped on the sixth day and rested on the Shabbos. There were half-baked creations. And you could use perhaps the word demons. In fact, there's references in the prophets, Isaiah, about a demon called Lilith. Someone just asked me about it. Where's Ron? Ron just asked me. Everyone heard about Lilith? Apparently, Lilith was Adam's first wife. Yes, and she was punished. And eventually Adam is separated from Eve, and that's his wife, and Lilith becomes the dust, but Lilith also becomes the mother of all these demons. So there's like interesting stuff about these paranormal, supernatural creatures that we read. Okay, it's not in the Torah itself, but it's hinted to in the Torah, and we do have such concepts. I think that we have shown enough sources in Torah that the word a witch or a sorcerer could be found in Judaism. So maybe someone can cast a spell on you. Maybe I'm casting a spell on you right now. I love the joke about, I'm just going to use the name Mrs. Goldberg. I hope there's not a Mrs. Goldberg here. It's not about you. So there's a Mrs. Goldberg, and she's showing her new diamond ring to all her lady friends at the JCC Mahjong. Anyway, they're like, wow, look at the size of that stone. It's gorgeous. Where did you get it? My husband gave it to me. Wow, where did he get it from? It's 10 generations old, passed down through generations, and he gave it to me. They said, you're so lucky. And she says, no, not necessarily. It comes with the Goldstein curse. They said, the Goldstein curse of 10 generations? Yes. What's the Goldstein curse? Mr. Goldstein. I hope there's not a Mr. Goldstein in the room. A couple more sources, and then we'll get into a little more discussion here. The Talmud, the rabbis of the Talmud talk about the idea of shadim. Have you ever heard the word shadim before? Shadim. A shade is like a dark spirit, like a demon. And in the Talmud, you have many places, like in Brachot 6a, Abaya says, they are more numerous than we are, and they surround us. According to Abaya, wherever we go, there are spirits surrounding us. Rav Huna said, everyone amongst us has thousands on his left and thousands to his right. And Rabbah says, fatigue in the knees comes from them. If just out of the blue, you get a little chill up your spine, it's because there's shadim around you. This is what it says in the Talmud. Boo. And some of the commentaries say that if our eyes were opened up and we could see the spirits around us, we would go Meshuggah. We have a reference, and actually they say the animals can see the spirits, but not human beings. Animals can. And you have the story in the Torah of the donkey with Bilam. You remember that story? And there's the angel, and the donkey could see the angel, and Bilam's hitting the donkey. Come on, I got to go curse the Jewish people. And the donkey turns around and talks to Bilam, right? Right? So you have like this idea that they could see stuff we can't see. All right. But here's the real question. The real question is, let's say that all this exists. There are demons, there are spirits, there are ghosts. There are dark energies and power in the world. Let's just say it exists. Torah says it exists, so let's go with it. Because I know some of you here are like, I don't know. The question is, can we see them, feel them, sense them, or not? And believe it or not, there's a big debate in Jewish thought about this. And it's not two schools of thought that are maybe less known. Probably two of the greatest Jewish codifiers, Kabbalists, have diametrically opposed opinions on all of this. And if I say their names, anyone who has a little bit of a Jewish education will know these two great names, and you will join me on a journey of debate of whether we have the ability to see or not to see this world. But before I go there, that was the hook. Before I go there, someone just wrote online, I sense them. Is that The Sixth Sense? You ever watch The Sixth Sense?
Yeah.
I see ghosts. I see something all the time. I see dead people. Oh, that's what it was, all the time, right? I see sleeping people all the time. Not so creepy. I give my sermon in the shul, I get up. You know the joke about the guy who every time the rabbi gave a sermon, he'd fall asleep exactly 3 minutes into the sermon, like clockwork. The rabbi got used to it. One time the rabbi gets up to speak and he doesn't even open his mouth, and the guy right in the front, his head goes like this and he's already sleeping. And afterwards the rabbi came to the fellow and said, Moshe, every time you fall asleep, fine, 3 minutes in. But this time I didn't even say anything and you were already sleeping. What's going on? And he says, Rabbi, I trust you. Let's take a little break from all this spooky stuff and just talk about a different concept. Let's talk a little bit about Judaism and the soul, because it's a basic concept in Judaism that we have two parts, a body, that's the astronaut suit we get to put on in this lifetime for, please God, 120 years is the dream. But that's not who we really are. That goes back into its source. And inside we have a spark of God. It's called the soul. It's a piece of God. So this is a general concept in Judaism. We all have a soul. Not only Jewish people, all human beings. Not only that, animals, plants, everything has a spiritual spark. And your soul is who you really are, and your soul lives on forever. So let's just take a few minutes to talk a little bit about the soul. Let's talk about the good stuff before we speak about the bad stuff. Maybe a little bit about Judaism's basic idea of what happens after we pass away. A lot of you are familiar with these basic concepts, right? When someone passes away, the family members say a very special prayer called Kaddish. Why do we say Kaddish? Because we pray for the departed soul to give it comfort and peace on its journey from this physical world to the next. So the concept of a soul in Judaism is pretty standard. And the concept that after a person passes away, God looks at our life, and there is heaven and hell in Judaism, but it's very different than the Christian heaven and hell in other religions. So I'm not, people ask me questions about other religions. I don't know anything about any other religions. I'm still working on Judaism. But the basic idea is that the soul is a spark of God. Just like God can never be destroyed. No matter what we do in our lives, even if we're not so holy, the soul is holy and it goes back to its source. It goes back to God. Now, what happens is after living on this earth for any amount of time in a physical body, the soul gets connected to the ego, to the physical, and the soul needs to go through a cleansing. We call this cleansing Gehenim, loosely translated as hell. It's not like an internal frying pan where you suffer for all eternity. It's a cleansing. How long does a person go to Gehenim? Generally speaking, not more than 12 months. That's the most that most souls need to go through a cleansing. Ultimately, all souls go back to their source, go back to Hashem. Now, based on how we lived our life is our place in the world to come. Apparently, it's blissful, peaceful, holy. We should not know about it for a very long time. There is a concept of some very wicked people that have caused such damage to themselves that they don't get to just go back to God. In fact, they don't even earn Gehenim, or hell in Judaism. So again, we don't look at hell as like a bad thing. We look at it as a cleansing. There's the Hitlers of the world. There's something called Kaf HaKela, that the soul is chased by the demons it created in its lifetime, and it's running from one side of the universe to the other side of the universe. There's such a concept. So there's these souls. So this is where you get the idea in Judaism of a dibuk. You ever heard the concept of a dibuk? A soul that inhabits a body. And, you know, there's all these exorcism movies, based on the concept of a dibuk. The idea exists in Judaism. Now, what does that mean? Do we know about it? Can we feel it? Does it mean we're going to walk around like a zombie? We'll get to the big debate soon. But there is a concept of lost souls. There's another concept that everything we do creates spiritual energies, and these energies are like angels or spirits. Every word we say is an energy. It continues on forever. The words, the sound waves continue going on. That's in the physical metric, but in the spiritual metric, our words are creations. God created the world. We read about it 2 weeks ago. And he said, let there be light. And he said, let there be mountains and trees and animals. And his words created our world. Our words create worlds as well. Spiritual worlds, spiritual energies. When I was a child, my father would tell me, and my Rebbe would tell me in the yeshiva, when you daven, say every word carefully, because every word that you say in your prayer creates a malach, an angel that protects you and your family. Don't say it half-baked or mumble it, because you create crippled malach. Every time you say something bad, you create a malach, an angel that's a dark angel. And that's why we believe that lashon hara is so dangerous. There's an expression in the world, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never harm me. And in spirituality, it's not true. First of all, physically, words are very powerful. There are people that someone broke their leg when they were a kid, but they heal fine. There are people when they were a child, a teacher, insensitively got angry, said 1 or 2 sentences to the child, and for the rest of their life, the child's whole viewpoint changed, their self-confidence, the job, their relationships, all because of the words people said to them. So words are very powerful, but now on a spiritual level, words create realities, energies, angels. So we don't speak Lashon Hara. It's interesting. We just read the Torah last week, the story of Noah and the great flood, right? And it says Noah was a righteous man and he walked with God. And there's all this praise about Noah in the Bible. He was righteous. But it's interesting. There's more praise about Noah than Abraham, than Isaac, than Jacob, than Moses, than David. There's no one else in the Torah that's introduced so eloquently and complimentary like Noah. Why so much compliments for Noah? What's that? Very good. The commentary says, in his time he was righteous, which means compared to the other people, he might not have been so righteous. But on that note, the sages say, why do we compliment people? For two reasons. One reason is because we want to tell everyone, we want to tell them and everyone what all the good things the person did. Another reason we compliment people is because we want to give them the strength to do the right thing and do it again. So we tell our children, you're so smart. You're so talented. Good job. I am so proud of you. We're not only talking about what they did, we're encouraging them to go on and continue doing wonderful things, that we believe in you. Noah had an impossible task to rebuild the world after so much evil and hatred and selfishness and darkness, and God speaks to Noah and gives him all this praise. Why? Because there's no one ever that needed the encouragement like Noah. Because there's no one ever in history that had to rebuild the whole world themselves. And it's like you said, it's questionable how righteous he was. He was a good guy, but was he an Abraham? No. Was he a Moses? No. So speaking words are so powerful. This is the whole idea in Judaism. So our words create spiritual worlds, so on and so forth. So in Judaism, and I'm going to wrap this idea so we can move on. So in Judaism, the soul is real. A person passes away, the soul lives on. All the traditions surrounding a burial, that we don't do cremation, God forbid, helps that soul on its journey. So we believe in the soul, and we believe in heaven, and we believe in hell, a different hell than others believe in. All this exists. There was a guy who was dating a girl for a very long time. And his Jewish mother said to him, "No, when are you going to pop the big question?" So he says, "Mom, I'm just not sure if we're on the same page spiritually." And she says, "What do you mean?" She said, "I believe in the soul and afterlife, in heaven, in hell. I believe in this stuff." But she doesn't believe in any of it. His mother looks at him and says, "David, you marry her. Between you and me, she'll know hell is real." All right. Another big concept that we talk about in Judaism is Gilgulim, reincarnation. And the belief is that most of us don't have a new soul. Most of us have been here many times before. The soul has to accomplish something in this world. There's a light that each soul, a unique light that each soul could bring to the world that no one else can. And the world's waiting since the beginning of time for us to deliver our unique light. And most of the time, it takes a few lifetimes. So Gilgul, reincarnation, is something we do talk about in Judaism. I guess we come back to the big question is, so yeah, all right, we believe in these concepts. But if I'm alone in a old creepy house with cobwebs, is it possible I actually saw a shadow walk by? Was it my imagination? There are people that come to me and say, "Rabbi, I'm telling you, I saw an image of my mother, of my Father. I wasn't sleeping. It was real. Is there any credence to this? Or is it just Mishigas? Enter one of the great debates in Jewish history between Maimonides and Nachmanides. Have you heard of these masters? Okay, Rambam and Ramban. Rambam was like in the 11th century. He lived in Egypt. He was on the run from the Christians during the Crusades. He was a sultan. He was a doctor of the sultan. He was a great doctor. He was a scientist and one of the greatest rabbis and Jewish codifiers and Jewish law that we've ever had. Rambam. And Ramban was in the same century. They both ended up in Israel eventually. You could go to the Ramban and Ramban's burial site in Israel today. Has anyone been there? I've been there. It's up near Sfat, you know, with the city of the Kabbalah, Meron, right there. I think that's where it is. Double check that. Guys, fact check that for me online. Thank you. By the way, you know, I used to be very afraid to be on social media and online. True story. I was so afraid I might make a mistake and I'll be recorded forever. Isn't that interesting? Now I make mistakes all the time. No one knows. They're quoting my mistakes now. They're like, yes, Rabbi Rapp said that the Rambam is buried and like now it became fact. So like, anyway. Rambam says that spirits and dibukim and all this energy exists, but there's no physical manifestation of it at all. They're purely spiritual beings with a magnifying glass, even with infrared cameras like they do in all the TV shows. You're not going to pick any of this stuff up. It's in another realm. You're not seeing it. Just one second. We don't have the antennas or the software to pick this up, or the hardware to play this software. So any biblical text about a person seeing or speaking with an angel must have been taken place in a dream or like in a prophecy in their mind. But it didn't really happen in the physical world. This is what the Rambam says. He goes on to say, anyone who, there is something called witchcraft and sorcery. There is a spiritual dark world that exists, but we don't have a door to open up from this world to that world. So anyone who tells you they could read your future, they could look into a crystal ball, they could look at the stars, they could predict things, or they could put spells on you, is pulling your leg. It's charlatry. It's just pure lies. This is what the Rambam teaches. Didn't he say shut your phone off? Okay. I'm giving a class, Arthur. I tried to shut it off and it went on. Here, I'm back, guys. All right. So this is the view of the Rambam. He says, these forms of invoking spirits are not only nonsense, but pagan activity, talking about Halloween and spirits and all this. Pagan stuff, we don't do it, he says. And he says, it undermines the belief in monotheism in a pure belief of God. That's it. Mishigas, stop it. But the Ramban says he disagrees wholeheartedly. The Ramban says souls can be sensed in this world. Spirits and demons can be seen in this world. They can take over bodies. There are people that dabble in the dark arts and really can communicate with the dead. And angels could really appear physically if they want to. Who agrees with the Rambam? Rambam, raise your hand. Okay. Who agrees? Now, Rambam means that there's no way to sense any of the spirits. All right. So Rambam, no way to sense the spirit. Raise your hand. Okay. And this is your honest belief, and you have a great sage, an authority behind you. So if this is your belief, you could share it. That's fine. It's not radical stuff, okay? Who believes in, like the Ramban says, that this stuff is real? What were you going to say? Sorry.
I was going to ask, we name our children after people that we revere that have passed on.
Sure.
I named my son after our father. Okay? Does that mean, and I was hoping that a spark of my dad would enter my son, and he sort of has.
Yeah.
Become this.
We believe in the soul, and souls are connected to other souls.
Because we named my son after my father, a little bit of my father's, he's been named after by several children, okay? So he's got to be, he's been divided around.
Right.
But do you think that a part of his soul went into Joel?
So souls are connected. And all souls are, we say, here God is one, and we all have a spark of God, so we are all one. So in the deepest level, there's only oneness. But in the later degradations of creation, some souls are more connected than others. A husband and a wife are two halves of one soul. But other people's souls can be connected as well. There are Gilgulim, souls that have been here before, and they come back. So that's very possible. To say that I'm qualified, or even you're qualified, or anyone in this room is qualified to know exactly whose soul I'm connected to, we don't know, but we could assume and we could feel it, and we could, we could think maybe, but we really don't know these things.
My
Yeah.
grandson is named Michael, who is an angel, and
Sure.
the reason they named him for an angel is that he was adopted of a Jewish mother in the hospital, and they got a baby.
Right, like an angel.
So, does he have, would that mean that he has some of the angels, he's a really good kid, but some of the angels, is that what?
I've never seen something like this in my life. A Jewish mother who thinks their child's an angel. This is the rarest thing. No, but what you're saying is very beautiful, and actually, we believe.
Is that because my son thought he was a miracle because they had a hard time adopting a child, but.
So let me, I think I know where you're going. Let me comment on this. And when we give a name, our sages say that you think you're naming after a Baba Zaidi, a movie star, or whatever, but really you're at that moment, God is giving you divine knowledge, and you're describing the essence, the energy of that soul. So if you call someone Avraham or Moshe, the energy of that soul it's describing who they really are. So there's such a concept. Now, we don't know exactly. I'm not a doctor of spirits. And actually, personally, I'm more of a cynical when it comes to these, personally. But we believe in this concept as Jews. So you're definitely onto something. The name captures the spiritual makeup of that soul. Right? So, this whole idea of the afterlife and the soul is very fascinating in Judaism. I mean, I love that there's a joke about a terrible story. A rabbi is driving in Israel, and he gets into a head-on collision with an Israeli bus driver. Has anyone ever sat in a bus in Israel with an Israeli taxi driver, a bus driver? Okay. They go up to the next world. The taxi driver, I'm sorry, he died first. So he's in front of the rabbi. The angel looks at him and asks him like 2 questions. Straight to heaven. All right, the rabbi's like, this is easy. He gets up there, and now they start interrogating the rabbi. 1,000 questions. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why in this sermon, when you said this about the Torah, what was your source? Right? The rabbi finally looks at the angel and says, I don't understand. I'm a rabbi. This guy is a taxi driver. My whole life, I prayed for people. I studied Torah with people. I did charity campaigns. Him, you let straight in. And me, you're like interrogating, cross-examining as if I'm a terrorist. What's going on? They said, it's very simple, Rabbi. When you would speak in the synagogue, people would sleep. But when the taxi driver drove, people prayed to God. All right. So why do we have all these stories in the Torah? Let's say according to Rambam that doesn't believe that you could actually see angels and they were just dreams and whatever. So why do we have so many stories in the Torah about these paranormal experiences if you can't even interact with them? Is the Torah just like bedtime stories for adults? Like what's going on? So the Rambam would say every story in the Torah has timeless depth and messages. And they're not just stories of people and witches and so on and so forth, but they carry important lessons. So like, for example, the whole story of Moshe taking his staff and turning into a snake, and then the sorcerers of Pharaoh take their staff and to make snakes, right? And then what happens next? Moshe's, no. If you read the words in the Torah very carefully, it says, and then it was Aaron. Aaron's snake turns back into a staff, and then the staff consumes the snakes of the sorcerers. It's an interesting nuance. You got to follow the words exactly. So it was like a double, triple miracle. And then the Rambam and the sages would say, the Torah is telling us this because there's so much depth here. There's messages. Like, for example, all of us in life have to deal with sly people, slimy individuals who are like serpents that are trying to harm us and our family and our people. And how do we deal with it? Sometimes we have to consume the enemy, so to say. We have to consume them. We have to get rid of them. But how do you do it? And so the Torah is telling us, be a staff. Don't be a serpent. Don't go onto their level. Don't slither on the floor and be like them. You're a staff. Moses' staff represents strength and integrity and values. Moshe's staff was a very special holy staff. It went all the way back to Adam. It had Hebrew words on it. They say that Moshe's staff was once stuck in the ground. There was Adam's staff, and no one could pull it out of the rock. It was at Jethro, Yisro's house in Midian. When Moshe came, he pulled it out and people were shocked. How did you pull it out? You must be very, very special. Does that story sound familiar, by the way?
Arthur.
But the Medrash talks about this written thousands of years ago, like 2,000 years ago. We have the story written down. Fascinating. All right. So these stories, the Rambam is saying, these stories are meant to teach us lessons. We have to fight with people sometimes. Be a staff. Don't become one of them. Yes, what were you going to say?
It goes along with what you're saying. Could it be not only fighting the serpents outside ourselves, but the two sides of every human's nature, the snake and the
staff,
the
value.
staff.
I love that analogy. And you know what comes to mind? The story of Jacob wrestling with Esau's angel. That's in the Torah too, right? So he's wrestling with an angel. What does it mean? So the school of Rambam would say, well, what's the lesson? It's an interesting story. All his life, he's running from Esau, who wants to kill him. He's struggling with his identity. He's holding on to Esav's heel. He wants to be Esav. He's not sure who he is. And finally, the angel of Esav, the night before they meet, says, Yaakov, you're not going anywhere. Let's figure this out. Who are you? Who am I? And then Yaakov overpowers the angel. And the angel says, the sun's about to rise. I got to go. Let me go. And Yaakov says, no, bless me first. That's the weirdest story you'll ever hear. Imagine you're walking in Atlantic City. Someone jumps out of an alleyway, says, give me all your money. You turn around, do a karate kick, jump on the guy, twist his arm, take the gun away. You pinned him down. The sun's rising. The guy goes, let me go. And you say, no, bless me. What? Esav's angel? So the sages say this is a very important lesson. Jacob believed that his whole life he was running for his brother. Why? Why did he have to suffer like that? What for? Because I believe there's a silver lining in everything. God doesn't allow bad things to happen unless it's giving me strength and teaching me something. What blessing can I find in this darkness? He says, I'm not letting you go. I got to find the meaning behind this. Where's the blessing in this? So the school of Rambam says all these stories are so powerful, but they're allegoric. Ramban says, no, he actually wrestled with an angel. Believe it. It actually happens. It's real. And there's a lot of sages that back him up too. It's a big debate. I think, could I go more or are we done? Should I go a little more or are we finished? Okay. Oh, he didn't even get to any of this. Okay. So Ramban says fortune tellers. And Rambam says fortune tellers, baloney. Ramban says fortune tellers might actually know what they're talking about. I have people in my shul that come to me, they say, Rabbi, it's real. There's no way the person would have known X, Y, and Z. I don't know. Which of course reminds me of one of my favorite jokes about fortune tellers. There was a Jewish girl, she was walking on the Atlantic City boardwalk. There was a sign that says, you know, sale, $35, 15 minutes, speak to the spirits. She missed her Zayda so much. So she went in and she sat down, she gave the money. The lights dimmed. The crystal ball started to glow. A voice came out from under the table. Sarah, Sarah, is that you? Zayda, is that you? It is I. Oh, this is amazing. What are you doing? I'm with the angels. I'm with your grandmother. Oh, we miss you so much. I miss you too. And they had the loveliest conversation. And suddenly the little timer is almost going tick, 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 ding, 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 ding. And suddenly the voice from under the table says, Sarah, the angels are calling. I have to go now. Do you have any last questions? And Sarah says, yes, say the one last question. He says, what, my child? She says, when did you learn to speak English so well? All right. Ramban says fortune tellers are real, but the Torah says it's forbidden to go and talk to them because we connect directly to God, not through the spirits. Rambam says it's baloney. Stay far away. And there are opinions, a group of sages that say Rambam really does believe it's real. But he says it's all false. Why? He wants to stop people from being curious and pursuing it. I don't know. It's a little hard to believe that Rambam would be so outrightly, like, where's the integrity? But there is such an opinion as well. It says even the Rambam believes it's all real, but he's trying to chase you away from it because a Jew is not supposed to dabble in that. We are supposed to connect everyone straight to God. All right, let's talk about some interesting things. Werewolves. There is a source in the Torah. It's a minority opinion. I forget the name of the rabbi. I don't have the source. Oh, you see, I just got up unprepared. But it does. I remember reading in the Medrash when you talk about Jacob is blessing his children, and he blesses Binyamin. You remember the 12 tribes, right? And each one is like, one's a ship and one's and Binyamin is a wolf, right? So son of Rachel, the baby brother, right? So it says Benjamin is the image of a wolf, and he will devour his prey and whatever. It's all symbolic, of course. And then there is an opinion that says that Binyamin actually would change into a wolf and consume his enemy. I'm just going to put that out there. You could do what you want with it. I don't think it's a commentary that's widely discussed, but it does exist, and you could look it up if you'd like. Vampires, I haven't found any sources of the concept of vampire in Judaism. First of all, blood is forbidden to consume according to Judaism, but I think we were persecuted very much and accused of consuming the blood of a Christian child on Passover and our matzah. So the whole vampire thing has some very big, deep anti-Semitic roots. I don't believe there's any discussion or this idea of vampires in Judaism, but it's actually a very offensive concept to a Jew. And by the way, historically, Jewish people on Halloween would go into their cellars and hide, because it was on this day that many times we were accused of all different kind of horrible things, and there were pogroms. This was a very dark day for Jewish people. So people say, hey, why don't you do Halloween with your kids? And it's like, listen, PTSD. PTSD, All right. Zombies, the undead. I don't see any of that in Judaism. There's the concept of when Mashiach comes, souls will return to their bodies, but it's not like horrid images of corpses walking around. It's actually people, maybe perhaps you could say even we could, through DNA, rebuild people. We could today. It's actually pretty interesting that you could, but there's this prophecy that when Mashiach comes, people will live forever, and those who have passed away will come back to the world. Again, the sages argue, is it more of a spiritual thing or is it actually a physical thing? But Techias HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead, is a Jewish concept, but it's not like zombies, in those horror films. Golem, right? Precious. That was my best impression. Anyway, a golem is a concept brought down in Judaism many times. It says there's references that, again, and this would be debated by Rambam and Ramban, what this actually means, but there are references that Abraham, in this week's Torah portion, it says, and Abraham traveled, right? God said, Lech lecha, go. And it says he went, Vesad a nefesh aser asu b'charan, and the souls he made in Haran. He brought them with him. The souls he made. So the explanation is that Abraham had no children. But the Torah is telling us that when you teach people Torah and about God, and they have better lives, it's as if you gave birth to them. Someone once came to me and says, Rabbi, I have no children. I want to leave a legacy. What do you think is important? I said, the Torah says that if you could continue, after you pass away, you could continue allowing other people to learn and study and be inspired, they become your children. I think that you should contribute to something specifically the Jewish education for children. That was my say, and he loved it. It was like, oh, that's a great idea, right? But the Torah says such a thing. There is one opinion in the Talmud who says, and the souls he made in Haran, Abraham created a man out of the earth and brought it to life. And the most recent claim of a golem is the Maharal of Prague, who didn't live too long ago, 1700s, 1600s? No, 1500s. Oh, there you go again. But anyway, look it up. Maharal of Prague, they say that there was a lot of anti-Semitism, and he created a golem out of clay, and he put this prayer and put it in its mouth. He brought it to life. And if you go to Prague today, anyone been to Prague? You've been to Prague for sure, several times. You've been everywhere. Do you still do trips or?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you go to, yeah.
When I was in Prague,
Oh, yeah.
There were gold cafes with like little coffee shops. and
Yeah.
I didn't understand.
So the Maharal is claim. In fact, in the Alter Nair Shul, which is one of the oldest shuls in the world, it's 900 years old. In the attic, they say no one could go in because under the Shemus, the old Torah scrolls, is the golem. That's what they say. And he would roam the streets at night, and
So like similar to the concept of Frankenstein, like.
if you go find the lady he wrote, I read a documentary, a book,
Mary Kelly?
yes, that her inspiration for Frankenstein was the golem.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? So this idea that okay, now you know what Rambam would say, and you know what Ramban would say. But I always grew up in camp, around the campfire, in the forest, they tell us golem stories. Okay. So there's such a concept in Judaism. Frankenstein would fall in golem topic. Unicorns. You don't see any unicorns on anyone's lawn on Halloween, do you? Only scary stuff. What? Pegasus. The Torah says that when the Jewish people were in the desert, they created the skins or the walls of the Mishkan with a beautiful skin of an animal called the tachash that almost had like a rainbow color skin, and it had one horn. And after they made the Mishkan, the tachash went extinct. And it was only created by God for the purpose of beautifying the Mishkan.
Well, that's why we're all wondering how they got the material.
So no, there's different. There was wool, there was linen, and there was tachash skin. It was a beautiful animal. It was kosher. So when they make the unicorns, they're missing the split hoofs. But anyway, maybe that's the source of that. Anyway, my friends, I'll end off with we're talking about the golem. I'll end up with one idea, and then if you want to ask questions, we can. The Kotzker Rebbe, such a brilliant rabbi. He said something perfect. He said, there's many stories of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, that he did many miracles. He says, if you believe all the stories of the Baal Shem Tov, you're a fool. But if you believe that even one of them could not have happened, you're a heretic. And I'll leave it at that. Good Shabbos, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our exploration. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions or complaints. Yes.
Rabbi, thank you so much for everything you say to us and for us. There is a book by the grandson of a Holocaust man who was murdered in the Holocaust. His name is Joseph Skibell, and he wrote a book called Blessings on the Moon. And
A book called Blessings on the Moon?
yes, it's a
I'm just
novel.
repeating because they can't hear you.
Okay, it's a novel, and in it, his grandfather, Chaim Skibelsky, is murdered, but his spirit has to fulfill and stays on the earth in Poland to fulfill his mission of his soul. And it is a magnificent book.
Interesting concept. Yeah, okay, we'll look it up. You guys even have a book recommendation today. Any other questions? Complaints? Yes. What do you want to complain about?
Comment to everyone here, not to you, Rabbi. You're just getting a sample of those people who are lucky enough to daven at Chabad at the shore. So, this is a sample of what we have, and there's a phrase in synagogue goers, JFK, just for Kiddush. But we ought to have a new phrase, JFS, just for sermon. So come at 11 o'clock to Chabad at the shore, and you'll get this.
Thank you.
very
Thank you.
much.
Ron, thank you. I appreciate that. And do you want the check or you want a Zelle?
Hallelujah.
An Aliyah. Boom. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Have a good day. Shalom, good Shabbos, everyone. And now. Thanks for joining, guys. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Have a good day.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll see everyone soon. Remember,